Story 1. My name is Nathan, and the traumatic events I'm about to describe happened to me last year. I had downloaded Tinder because I was extremely lonely after a tough breakup and wanted to try meeting someone new. After a few weeks of using the app with no luck, I almost gave up. But then I started chatting with this cute blonde girl named Amber, who actually seemed nice at first. We really hit it off right away. She was funny, shared similar interests, and seemed genuinely interested when we talked. After messaging daily for 2 weeks, Amber suggested meeting up for dinner. At first, I was hesitant about meeting an online stranger and trying to politely decline. But she was so sweetly persistent, assuring me I could totally trust her. She promised we'd have a great time together and seemed offended when I explained my discomfort. So against my better judgment, I agreed to see her. I figured a public place would be safe enough, although something still nagged at me that this was a bad idea. We arranged to meet that Saturday evening at a popular Italian restaurant downtown. But the morning of our date, Amber messaged me begging to come over to my house instead, saying she wanted things to feel more intimate for our first meetup. Every fiber of me screamed no, but she turned on the charm, saying she'd cook me dinner herself and bring the wine. After her hard sell, I reluctantly gave in, figuring I was just being paranoid. When Amber arrived that evening, the first red flag was apparent. She looked noticeably different than her glamorous photos on Tinder with minimal makeup, flat hair, and frumpy clothes. Still, I tried not to seem disappointed and awkwardly welcomed her in. Right away, she started rummaging through my kitchen cabinets, making herself at home as I stood there confused. I had assumed we would cook dinner, but clearly she had other plans. Things only got more uncomfortable as the night went on. We made stilted small talk, but Amber kept staring at me in an almost predatory way that made me shrink back. When I declined a glass of wine for the 3rd time, she became irritated and pushy, lecturing me that I needed to loosen up and stop being rude. Against my better judgment, I finally accepted a drink she thrust into my hand, not wanting to anger her further. Over the next 20 minutes, I sipped the bitter red wine as Amber prattled on about her interest in tarot cards and crystals. Suddenly, I started feeling faint and knew something was very wrong. Vertigo washed over me in waves, and the room tilted sharply. Slurring my words, I confronted Amber to ask what she had done to my drink before I collapsed onto the couch, muscles no longer obeying. The last thing I recall seeing as everything rapidly faded to black were her lips curling into a truly evil grin as she towered over me. Some indeterminable time later, I woke face down on the cold tile floor drenched in hot, sticky fluid. As I regained blurred double vision, I saw crimson splattered everywhere, streaked across the walls, pooled on the carpet, flecked onto the furniture and even the ceiling. With rising panic, I realized it was blood. My blood. A trail of red footprints led out the bedroom door down the hall. I raised my throbbing head to find multiple deep gashes covering my arms and bare chest. My bed was shredded, the disemboweled mattress stained dark red. What the hell had happened? Where was Amber? I tried yelling, but only managed a hoarse whisper through my raw throat. Frantically, I stumbled through my utterly demolished home searching for my phone to call 911, leaving crimson handprints in my wake. But all electronics had been stolen, disconnected landlines left dangling. Returning to my bedroom clutching a kitchen knife for defense, my legs almost buckled in abject horror. A giant inverted pentagram had been painted on the wall in more blood, partially obscured by shelves that had been ripped down. The same 6-pointed star was smeared elsewhere in smaller sizes. Then below in jagged script read, "I own you again." Choking bile rose in my throat at the realization that my deranged date had apparently used my blood for her twisted ritualistic decoration, while I was unconscious and helpless. Nearly faint again, but this time from blood loss, I sank down by my graffitied wall, clutching the knife in preparation to defend my life from Amber's likely return. But the sound of approaching sirens, then shouted commands shortly thereafter signaled my nightmare was over. Police had been alerted by neighbors hearing destruction. I exhaled in tearful relief between relaying vague details to the first responders before being hauled on a stretcher to the ambulance, too shell-shocked to fully comprehend my harrowing ordeal. Over the next few days at the hospital, I worked extensively with detectives to piece together the horrific chain of events after Amber spiked my drink with some unknown dissociative substance. Clearly, she had sadistically tortured me nearly to death, using my drained blood for perverse pentagram drawings to fulfill some deluded satanic fantasy before pillaging my house of valuables. My antique jewelry box had been raided along with cash, electronics, and anything worthwhile she could fence or pawn. But the robbery seemed like an afterthought to Amber's true motive behind the vicious ambush. Her elaborate scheming, the fake online persona, the disarming charm, the insistence on changing venues to my vulnerable home, indicated a deeply unhinged and dangerous obsession masked behind a girl-next-door facade. The defacement with satanic symbols suggested some disturbing occult fixation, and having deleted her Tinder account immediately after, this cunning predator was still roaming free to enact revenge on another unsuspecting victim. Once released from the hospital, I stayed with terrified friends, too traumatized to step foot in my home ever again without picturing crimson-soaked walls. I ended up selling off the entire contents, unable to erase the chilling memories it harbored even after removing the pentagram-stained drywall. The new homeowners were never informed of its dark history. Those stains perpetually seeped through in my tortured dreams regardless. I got a fresh start by moving across the country and installing robust security in my nondescript apartment. But the emotional scars haunt me daily a year later. I constantly peer over my shoulder, convinced I've spotted Amber during my infrequent grocery shopping trips. At night, I wake up drenched in cold sweat, that painted pentagram flashing behind squeezed shut eyelids as I force my breathing to slow, reassuring myself I'm safe in my plain off-white unit. I even get panic attacks chatting with female support staff or just seeing blonde ponytails in public that resemble hers. I know I should seek counseling to process my trauma, but facing those gruesome details again is too terrifying. The detective keeps in touch, but unfortunately still no leads on Amber's true identity or whereabouts. I pray every day that police catch this dangerous, unhinged monster before she sadistically destroys any more lives like she did mine. But part of me knows she's far too cunning, lurking in the shadows, scouring dating sites, charming her next unwitting target with enticing messages. Please learn from my cautionary tale and do not trust strangers you meet online, no matter how harmless they first appear. Because that friendly, sparkling-eyed blonde hides pure evil behind her mask, waiting to inflict unimaginable torture without mercy. And by then, it's too late. She already owns your fate in her blood-stained hands. Story 2. I'm extremely wary of online dating apps now, but I'm quite biased given the traumatic catfishing experience I endured because of Tinder. I've only actually met up with 3 people ever from Tinder. The first 2 meetups were uneventful. I wasn't keen on either woman, and there were no second dates. But compared to the third encounter, those earlier meets went remarkably well. Let me back up and explain how this nightmare unfolded. My name is Lucy, and I'm an average-looking brunette in my mid-20s. I matched with a girl named Relly on Tinder who I now realize used very strategic photos. She had 4 pictures posted, 3 of her alone posing in what looked like a backyard, and 1 by a pond. At the time, I didn't consider it a red flag that she was solo in every shot. Why would I? She was decently attractive by my standards. We messaged back and forth for a week or so. When Riley asked what I was doing one Saturday night, and I said just hanging at my parents' house, she outright asked if she could come over to hang out. Now my bedroom and parents' house are connected by a separate basement entrance that I use to come and go freely. So I figured why not? It could work out fine. We set an arrival time that evening. Riley texted me promptly at 8 p.m, announcing her presence outside my basement door. Punctual, I took it as a good sign. I greeted her to come downstairs to my room. Immediately, I got weird vibes. Her demeanor seemed off and responses were oddly curt. When we sat on my bed, making stilted small talk about her drive over, a laugh at my lame jokes sounded forced, and she kept intensely staring into my eyes without blinking. It was uncomfortable, and I already knew we weren't going to vibe well. I turned on the TV for background noise to fill frequent awkward silences. Riley never once glanced at the screen, just watched my every move with laser focus. After only 20 minutes, I was desperate to end this catastrophe of a meetup. I pretended to get a text that I needed to go to bed early for work. She reluctant to leave, but I insisted on escorting her out. Only once the door was locked behind did I let out an immense sigh of relief that awkward encounter was over. But literally 5 minutes later, Riley texted, "Are you sure you have to go to bed?" Followed by, "I was having fun," then just question marks when I didn't instantly reply. This girl was clearly unhinged. I blocked her number and tried putting it out of mind. I fell asleep a couple hours later as usual, but woke up around 3 a.m. as I often do. I instinctively felt around for my phone that I'd always leave charging on my nightstand, but it wasn't there. Certain I had put it in the same spot. I got up and searched everywhere to no avail. I turned on the string lights on my wall to see better in the dark room, but couldn't find that dang phone anywhere. Frustrated, I went upstairs to grab the landline and brought it back to my room. When I dialed my cell number, I heard it loudly vibrating from inside my laundry room, which adjoins my bedroom. This was bizarre because I knew I hadn't gone in there at all that night. I entered to see my phone brightly lit up on the rumbling washing machine. My blood ran cold realizing someone had clearly taken it in here. I picked up my phone to find new messages from an unknown number. Opening them, I saw 2 close-up pictures of me sleeping in my bed earlier that night. Underneath were texts saying "nice" and "lock your door next time." The reality then crashed over me how idiotic I was to rush Riley out without making sure the door was locked afterwards. Standing there in the shadows of the laundry room, I suddenly felt unseen eyes on me. I could have sworn I heard the faintest creak behind the large boiler in the back corner, where it was pitch black. Every instinct screamed she was still here, hiding, watching me. I spun around searching for something, anything I could use to defend myself as a weapon. But the cramped windowless room offered little but detergent bottles. Heart pounding, I decided my best bet was fleeing upstairs to safety where I could call police. Just as I made a break for the stairs, the boiler or dryer, I'm not sure, suddenly switched on with a roar that jolted my frayed nerves. Nearly leaping out of my skin, I stumbled backwards, crashing into the wall just as a figure rushed from the shadows towards me. I screamed and threw my phone directly at the attacker, striking her forehead hard. She yelped, falling backwards into the shadows again, giving me a chance to escape. Taking the stairs 3 at a time, I ran to my parents' closed bedroom door down the hall and pounded desperately until I heard the lock click. Shaking with terror, I told them to call 911 while checking that all other doors were secured. Within 10 minutes, officers had swarmed our home to apprehend the intruder. Thanks to her sloppy digital trail, tracking Riley, or Silvana Santos as that was her real name, was simple enough. The 19-year-old was caught hiding 2 blocks away thanks to me smashing her with the only weapon I had. The deranged teen didn't even try to deny her actions. She confessed to breaking in later that night thinking I'd be fast asleep, and hiding for hours planning to sneak up to my bed once my parents left for work. I successfully pressed charges for breaking and entering, stalking and harassment. Of course, I also got a strict restraining order. As disturbing as the entire ordeal was, I'm extremely fortunate it didn't end much worse at the hands of that unhinged psychopath. But I'm still scared by the chilling realization that I was likely being watched sleeping by that creepy girl for hours before she made her move. It makes my skin crawl remembering her hovering over me, totally vulnerable and unaware of the danger lurking within my own home. I'll never again let my guard down accepting strangers into my personal space or disregard those creepy gut feelings. That's a naivety I can't afford anymore after glimpsing the darkest depths people conceal behind harmless facades. Maybe I'm biased, but I refuse to take risks letting predators masquerade as friendly dates after my own close call nearly ended in disaster at Tinder stalker Silvana's hands. Her vacant eyes devoid of empathy still haunt me when I lay down to sleep at night, even in the safety of my locked bedroom. Because those sharks don't reveal their sharp teeth until you're already bleeding out and helpless in their grip. Story 3. I made one of the most foolish decisions of my life a few years ago, leading me straight into a horrific and sadistic situation with someone I now believe to be a genuine psychopath. My name is Emma, and I was 18 years old when this incident took place. It was the middle of August, just a couple months after I graduated high school. Up to that point, summer break had been painfully dreary and lonesome. My dad and I lived alone, and he was extremely overprotective and controlling over me, to the point of being outright emotionally and psychologically abusive. Dad didn't allow me to have any friends whatsoever and dictated my every move. I was essentially his personal servant, catering to his demands around the house while he was at work, only to have him undermine and manipulate me when he returned. He'd even removed my bedroom door off its hinges, leaving me zero privacy or autonomy. The only glimpse of independence came a month prior when Dad got me a phone, albeit one he confiscated nightly at 8 p.m. sharp. I had downloaded Tinder on my phone, seeing it as my only escape to actually converse with people my age. With no true companions at school either, I was desperate for interaction beyond Dad's alcoholic rages. I had to be extremely careful not to let him find the app though. Every evening, I'd delete all traces before surrendering my device, knowing he'd fly into a murderous rage if he knew I was on there. I ended up matching with a guy named Alex, who I later learned was actually 28 years old. Back then, his greater age and maturity seemed exciting, like an ego boost that an older man was interested in me. Now I understand how inappropriate and predatory it was given my youth and inexperience. Regardless, Alex and I quickly struck up lengthy conversations as I opened up about my oppressive home life. He even offered me refuge at his place, reminding me that as an 18-year-old, I could legally leave my dad's control. As enticing as Alex made that sound, the prospect also sparked tremendous anxiety inside me. So when he proposed coming to collect me that very night, I balked, saying I wasn't ready to run away together yet. Maybe we could just hang out for now, I suggested. After some persuasion, Alex agreed to pick me up at midnight for a few hours, with the condition I'd be back by 4 a.m. sharp before Dad woke. I provided specifics about parking far down a rural road rather than risk crunching up our gravel drive and rousing Dad from his drunken stupor. Alex seemed compliant about texting me upon arrival so I could sneak out undetected. I had no reason yet to doubt his trustworthiness. He came across compassionate about my situation, but in hindsight, I realized he was expertly grooming his prey by feigning empathy or gauging opportunities to isolate me. Sure enough, come midnight, I received Alex's "I'm here" text. I noiselessly slipped out my ground floor bedroom window and crept alongside the dark, tree-flanked driveway searching for his car, confused not to spot any headlights. About 20 yards from the main road I froze, detecting hushed voices from roadside shadows. I couldn't comprehend the conversation until inching dangerously closer, my stomach revolted by what I overheard. Alex was casually bragging to his phone buddy about the teenage girl he was waiting to violently rape and keep alive as long as possible, boasting what a rush it was meeting vulnerable chicks online to lure places he could eventually torture them, laughing that I was the youngest yet at just 18 and how he loved breaking sheltered ones like me. I barely swallowed my gag reflex, spine liquefying at his demonic words so casually spoken about me. This was no empathetic savior but a stone-cold predator out hunting his ideal prey. Scared young girls, desperate for affection, who'd foolishly lower their guard at the hands of a master manipulator. Operating solely on adrenaline, I backed soundlessly away before breaking into a full-on sprint toward the woods. Taking cover behind dense foliage, I panicked over what to do next. Going back inside meant risking my vile dad's explosive wrath if woken, but staying exposed with that nearby human beast also wasn't an option. When Alex blew up my phone minutes later, feigning concern over my disappearance, I hesitated answering at first, but it seemed wisest to placate him from afar rather than have him vengefully track me on foot. So I conjured my most convincing "sorry for wasting your time" lie, claiming an urgent need to cancel tonight, but deifying my Tilo wanting to reschedule ASAP. My polite fiction lasted mere seconds before Alex unleashed the full fury that had been simmering below his duplicitous helpful guy disguise. He screamed threats and obscenities at me, blaming me for ruining his evening. Then came the words that shattered any remaining doubt about imminent peril should he find me. "I know exactly where you live, Emma, and I'll be paying you a special visit very soon, you worthless cock-teasing bitch. I promise to show you things 10 times worse than anything Daddy ever did. So you better sleep with one eye open, slut." Then dead air signaled my life expectancy if Alex located my hiding place. I remained frozen for ages before mustering courage to move. Having gotten turned around in my panicked flight, I couldn't rightly tell which direction was home, or where the black-hearted monster lurked. Ultimately, blind luck guided me safely back through my bedroom window before collapsing numbly. I laid awake until sunrise, clenched with sickening dread, flinching at the slightest sounds outside. Certain Alex was creeping about seeking his revenge opportunity. And indeed, over the next week, my nerves frayed more each time I checked my dead-bolted windows or caught myself bolting upright hearing phantom floorboard creaks outside my room at night. Days later, when recounting my horror story to my grandmother, she broke down realizing I'd endured countless traumas without help. She drove me directly to the police station to report the chilling threats and known location of this beast posing as a trustworthy friend. But they said essentially nothing could be done without evidence of intent or harm done. We returned to Dad's so I could hastily pack my essentials before leaving that place forever, not even risking a final confrontation with my abusive father. The revealed ugliness I'd endured there paled next to my run-in, with Alex's soulless evil wearing the mask of caring protector. I'll never know if it was all a sadistic game to destroy me, or if I was meant to be the next prize in his chamber of young female victims. In the 3 years since, I've slowly started rebuilding my shattered trust and feeling safe again. My grandmother's unconditional support has given me strength and courage. I still compulsively check all windows and locks at night though, often awaking to that twisted voice echoing in my ears. "I know where you live, Emma," and the slightest male attention still elicits distrust as I picture his handsome paid photos concealing the black void behind those hooded eyes. Maybe Alex has snatched his next innocent prey by now, believing I'll never go to authorities. But I refuse to shoulder misplaced shame over his demonic intentions, nor ignore the innate alarm bells when evil masquerades as good ever again. I'm just grateful fate allowed me escape his sinister trap before my name joined the ranks of forgotten girls who likely disappeared in shallow graves along lonely roadsides. Surviving the worst evil this world hides in plain sight has taught me that inner voice shouting "turn back" must never be silenced ever again.